Hey everyone, it's Howie here with Quantum Possibility. In today's video, I wanted to talk about how we can rewire our nervous system so that we automatically make high vibrational choices. And remember, when we start to make more high vibrational choices, what happens is our reality tries to match that high vibration. If we make low vibrational choices, our reality will match that and we'll live in a reality that we don't really want. So it all comes down to the choices that we make on a moment to moment basis. Now, the issue is we've been hardwired to actually live in this suffering pattern where we make a lot of choices based out of fear, out of scarcity, based out of unworthiness and a lack of self-love. And these cycles are very evident in our everyday life. A good example would be following a diet. So maybe we do a good job of eating high vibrational foods for about 30 days, and then that's our commitment, but then our willpower runs out and we default back to our emotional eating of eating junk food because it gives us a temporary high. So the way that cycle works is we eat a low vibrational food, we get a temporary high because it tastes good or whatever, but then we shame and guilt ourselves, which is a very low vibrational feeling, and we get stuck in this suffering pattern where we're now shaming and guilting ourselves, and then the food gives us a temporary high, and then we shame and guilt ourselves again. And if you follow Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, he talks about how our thoughts, feelings, and actions are all interconnected and wired together. And what he says is what wires together fires together. So these thoughts, feelings, and actions, these behaviors are all interconnected and get imprinted within us. And the longer that neurocircuitry has been firing, the more embedded within us it's going to be. So it's going to be really important that we break that cycle. Now, we can't break cycles just by thinking about it, okay? I shouldn't say that. There are people that can do it, but I found that in my own experience to be more challenging, to just meditate on it and to not actually take action into making those changes and actually rewiring the system. Because what we want here is to default to a higher vibrational choice, meaning that's the choice we actually want to make without any sacrifice. When we feel like we're sacrificing, essentially what that's telling us is our default state is not something that we're in total alignment with. Again, that would mean like our default state's to eat junk food, and then we're eating healthy, but we feel like we're sacrificing, like, oh, I don't get to eat what I want and this sucks. Okay, there's misalignment there. We have to totally reconnect those wires into thinking that, hey, making the healthy food choice is what I actually want to do. And I don't see any sacrifice, just like you might be feeling about, candy, for example. Like, I love eating candy. I don't want to give that up. You retrain your system to say the same thing about something healthy. Like, I love eating healthy. Like, I don't want to give that up. So you can get the same feeling that you have about junk food with healthy food. And that's just one of many, many examples. We have so many of these patterns within ourselves. I talk about the diet one because that's one for me that I've struggled with. It's like I can do well on a diet for a while, but then I default back to not caring about a diet and then wanting greasy food or wanting something that's not as healthy for me. So it's important that we get really raw and real with ourselves and identify these patterns of suffering. Where am I engaging in this behavior? So that's kind of step one. Where are these patterns of suffering happening? Where is this wiring, this old wiring that I want to delete from my system? Where is that located? It could be food, it could be relationships, it could be alcohol or drugs, it could be with money. These are the big areas that we oftentimes see where we have these different patterns. So journaling on that and getting really honest with yourself is a good part because you can see where that wiring exists within you and you'll actually have clarity on where you need to rewire. So the second part of it is you need an embodiment practice that can actually clear space within the nervous system. This isn't just a woo-woo thing. There's science showing that our energy channels within our body get clogged up and they get almost like crystallized within us, especially when it's from a traumatic experience, either emotional or physical. So we have to clear that trauma in order to make space for the new wiring. Like a good example is like with a computer. It's like if you want to update your software on your computer, it's like, hey, we need 8 gigabytes of free space in order to upgrade the software. If your computer's completely full, you're going to have to go delete a bunch of stuff in order for that new upgrade to happen. So this is the same thing that's happening within us. We need to start deleting a lot of these things in order to upgrade, to make those higher vibrational choices. And when those higher vibrational choices become our new default setting, you don't have to think about it at all. This is just what you'll be aligned with. This is what you'll be doing. And then your reality is going to come meet you, because your net average of where you're vibrating is going to be much higher when your default setting is a high vibrational choice. So we have to rewire our system. Now, in terms of an embodiment practice that actually breaks that old wiring up, frees it up so that we can create new neurocircuitry within our entire nervous system and our entire body and mind, quantum flow is a great one. But Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations also, where he has you work up energy from your root chakra, or like the base of your spine, all the way up through your brain using breathing techniques essentially, and meditation is fantastic too. Quantum flow for me is a little bit more movement, and I can actually get into that flow state a little bit easier, where in the flow state is where you've released the old circuitry in that moment when you're in the flow state, so you can start creating new neurocircuitry. So that's kind of the idea behind that. We want to break the bond between the thought, feeling, and action that we've been living by, that's been creating our perspective in the way we view reality. It's really, really interesting to kind of almost take a step back and look at yourself as like an artificial intelligence, like machine learning, robot, you could even say, and just to kind of look at like, wow, look at all of the circuits connecting the thoughts, feelings, and actions, and just looking at it from there. And it's like, okay, I just want to rewire myself. I know there's a lot to rewire. There's hundreds of these connections that have been made, and I kind of have to clip each one and rewire it. That's okay. It's a practice. You do a little bit at a time. Let's say there's 300 wires. Within a year, if you go and rewire each thing and you're journaling on it so you know exactly what needs to be rewired, you can change. I mean, that's all you really have to do. It's not that much more complicated. When we make a huge story around it and don't take kind of this observer perspective on it, it can be much more difficult. But we can rewire ourselves to make higher vibrational choices, because it's the choices that we make that ultimately lead to the vibration that we express. And that's incredibly important to understand. It all comes down to the choices. Are you going to choose the high vibrational choice, or are you going to choose a low vibrational choice? Because we're constantly, coming against these situations where we have to make a choice. Let's make our default setting a high vibrational one. Then you don't have to think about it at all. You can just love life and live life and not have to worry about willpowering yourself to make the right choice. So I hope that's been helpful. If you want any more information on this, I'm happy to make more videos going a little bit deeper into the different components. But I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for tuning in.